No, no, honey, just it because it would just be a like a laugh fest. How about that? Do you understand what I'm saying? I think I'm gonna do something in August though, but I've got to. If we just had so much going on here that I needed to get through this. Yes. Okay. You can't hear him at all. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me just stay right here and let me know because I just went to another channel. How does that sound? Can you hear him? Is that still low? Let's try to keep them. Keep on.
Testing, 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 testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing.
Perfect. Let's leave it at that, channel.
Okay,
Testing. One,
very
two, three,
good.
four,
Okay,
five.
perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm gonna find you find something else here. And we're going to keep on going. And thank you for those insights too about. Well, you know, I have to talk to you. Okay, so we are up on StreamYard, everybody. Hey, it's good to see you. You all, you know, I'm trying to pull some things together for last minute, so just give me. It's not last minute. It's called prep, and I'm the one who does the prepping. Okay, so I am my staff.
Choosing whether that
is that.
much at all. Now we pay for meals.
You know.
People always want to shine. They don't know what goes on to make things shine.
Do you understand what I'm saying? The stuff you gotta do.
Alexa, play
That's right.
WCPT from TuneIn.
So,
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. If there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and
I wish they wouldn't lead with that. My dad wasn't around. Because that is not where most black folks are. The most involved father in the United States is the black father.
It's the black father. Yep.
That's dedication.
That is true. We gotta recreate that narrative.
And we have to start telling the truth. I didn't
Tell
say
the
the
truth.
CDC did.
Yes.
And the person who the ultimate baby daddy is Thomas Jefferson, metaphorically. They came up with this. I didn't come up with this. Did you get me started on that, man? Hello? Am I telling the truth? Get out of here. What is this?
I thought I'm going to end up on the street.
I don't like that.
That's just how it's going to be.
You know, so it's so insulting.
Corey and Zach's journey
Yeah.
changed when they were adopted with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for
I don't
Adoption.
like that.
It's really difficult.
My
for when
dad
you're
wasn't
having
around.
family. I'm not going
Okay.
to have that problem now. I just won't because I have a family.
Today, Corey and Zach have bright futures, but every year,
And then you hear it,
thousands
you know,
age out
trickle,
of foster
percolate into
care.
our own
No permanent
conversation,
family
you know, which is,
and
oh,
Yeah.
you know, and these,
Learn
I had to
more
tell the young lady who drives me, I was like, honey, wait. If they'll make us all pay for a poor choice you made now.
Hope you enjoyed the poem.
Yeah, I
Oh,
said
I just
that.
want to say it. He's lucky to have a brother like you.
1 minute.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
People need to hear it just like that.
Every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair.
Yeah, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that.
No small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing.
And act as if These folks didn't have their way with us on this plantation, which is why my mother said every time she had a child, she didn't know what was going to happen.
So I'll be here.
You know, I'm like, really?
30 seconds.
Okay, when he's doing his good news, please put him on mute, okay?
But I'm the lucky one.
Let's have.
I'm sorry, put him on mute or put you on
No,
mute?
put me on mute. So I
Okay,
can
very good.
download some things. Thank you, sweetie. Oh, thank you for catching me, Alex.
No worries. You have 10 seconds.
He said, what is she talking about? Sounds nuts this morning. Yes.
Stand by.
Okay.
WCPT from TuneIn.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Let me get this together back here. It's a joy to be with you on the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We've got a lot to talk about today. The Rainbow Push International Conference kicks off today, actually. We're starting with a reunion. The Jackson 84 and 88 teams, really everything started in the spring of 1983 when Reverend Jackson launched not his historic presidential bid, but his historic voter registration drive. No one has registered more Americans to vote than Reverend Jesse Jackson. That is now part of codified. That has been codified. It is fact. No one has registered more Americans to vote than Reverend Jesse Jackson. We're going to talk about that. And you can hear firsthand the stories about the campaign. You can hear firsthand the stories about how we ran with chicken buckets, people just putting their nickels, their dimes, their dollars into the bucket so we could get from place to place. Even, Pastor Stephen Thurston, let me just tell you all this. Our airplane, we found what we could find was really the least expensive one that you could rent. And one day, it was not in the best of shape, and it was, and the journey, the flight was so perilous. The Secret Service said, land the plane. We're not going to be on this plane anymore. So we couldn't take that plane anymore. But do you know, in December of that year, we lost our whole crew because the plane crashed, Pastor Thurston. Wow. Our plane was in such bad shape. But that's what we could afford, because Reverend had a people's draft. Reverend was trying to get Maynard Jackson or Andrew Young to run. He said, you're more acceptable than I. I'm like the renegade black leader, so you're more mainstream. But the people said, no, we want you to run. And he, up until maybe a couple of weeks before he announced, he was still trying to get them to do it. He said, because you all will be better at it, because I think you'll be more acceptable. Well, history said something else, and here we are. The world has changed because of the actions, not just of him, but of the team. And we're going to talk with you about that. Meet us at 930 50th Street, starting today. And then tomorrow we're going to have a big barbecue. We're going to have a lot of reminiscences. Vice President Kamala Harris, the corporate media, they're so funny. They're trying to not say that she's coming in part for this, but she is. She's going to be, we're going to be at the Apostolic Church of God at 64th and Dorchester on Sunday. And she will be giving a speech acknowledging Reverend Jackson and his accomplishments. Indeed, she is part of his legacy. She and Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders and on, and Geraldine Ferraro. There would not have been a woman on the ticket had he not demanded that a woman be on the ticket. He pledged to put one there. So we got a lot to talk about. And today we're going to be talking about that. Do we still have need for a movement now? Do we still have need for those ways? Do we still need to register people to vote? What do we need as we watch these Supreme Court decisions, as we watch a lurch to the right? What are we doing to make America more peaceful and more just? Call me at 773-763-9278 here at WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And then we're going to be talking about financial literacy. That's right. Reverend Jackson has said, you had different movements in this movement. And the last movement is moving from civil rights Pastor Thurston, you would love this, to silver rights. That was coined indeed by Reverend Leon Sullivan, one of our iconic pastors of the last century. And you know, if you get the right to sit at the kitchen at the lunch counter, but you have no money, you don't have silver rights. So we're going to be talking with Ron Whittingham of Megget Financial, because we're going to have a financial literacy seminar, and we want you to be there. We're going to be at the University of Chicago. I'm going to get that address, but you need to be there on Tuesday. We are going to have all of our students who we're taking on our Black College tour. It will be a requirement, Pastor Thurston, that they be there. You need to know how to handle your money. If you think you don't, look, whatever money you've got, however small you think it is, you need to know how to manage it. And this company is set up to help you to manage your money. Middle class, working class people. So, got a lot to talk about today on the Santita Jackson Show. So call me at 773-763-9278. Will you be at the conference? I hope so. Yvonne is coming in from New York. And Yvonne, I need you to get in touch with Sir Pearl and me so that we can get your trailer parked and all of that. She's driving her camper in. God bless her. And we're going to have a good time, girl. We're going to have a good time with you. Call us at 773-763-9278. A couple of the headlines. President Joe Biden wrapped up his trip to Europe this week by asserting that Russian President Putin has, quote, already lost the war in Ukraine. There is no possibility of him winning the war, quote, open quote, close quote, said Biden at a news conference yesterday, emphasizing the strength of the NATO alliance. It's a debatable point, but that is one that he is asserting. The U.S. Secret Service has concluded its investigation into the small bag of cocaine found at the White House earlier this month and has been unable to identify a suspect, according to the agency. The FBI lab results from the packaging found, quote, insufficient DNA and could not retrieve any fingerprints. Pastor Thurston, I hope that will be applied when they arrest all these folks throughout the community. What do you think? Okay.
Amen.
All right. The House voted Thursday to adopt several controversial amendments pushed by conservative hardliners to critical national defense bills. As the fate of the must-pass legislation hangs in the balance, passage of the amendments, which touch on hot-button issues like abortion policy, is expected to cost Democratic votes and could prevent the final passage of this legislation unless House Republicans are able to largely unite behind the measure. In Chicago, it's going to be warm today, 86 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 90 degrees, mostly sunny. Major League Baseball, the All-Star break is over. The Twins will be meeting the Athletics. The Red Sox will be facing off against the Cubs, and the White Sox will be in Atlanta. The WNBA has 2 days off in soccer. Tomorrow, Chicago will be playing Toronto, and Miami, LAFC. Those are the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. You get this cocaine into the White House, Pastor Thurston, and you don't know how it got there. The most wired up place on earth. I just look, and folks and people go to prison forever and ever on possession.
That's right.
Or just we suspected that you. I mean,
Yeah.
No.
For people who've never been to the White House, it's a process to get in.
Let them know.
And they look at everything you bring in.
Your background.
Yeah,
and if you are going to be in the presence of the president or the vice president, same thing.
Yes.
You got to send in your social security number. You got to get on the list. You know, they have people there when you get there. You know, somebody recognizes you because they have a photo and all. So it's like, come on, y'all, really? You know, look, stop it right now. Oh, but you know, and on that note, you know, your grandfather was one of Dr. King's closest friends. They lovingly called Pastor Thurston boy baby because y'all are like Dorian Gray. Y'all don't age. All jokes aside, from a legendary preaching family and serving family, and we thank God for you. So I thought it appropriate today, given the fact that you have been looking at, part of your ministry has been looking at young people and trying to bring them into, not just into the church, but taking the church out into the world. You have worked at Push, and our families have been close for 60 years. So I want to know, what is the good news? I mean, do we still need the civil rights movement today? Do we still need to be active in these organizations? Do we still need advocacy and advocates?
Yes, definitely. It's not a moment, it's a movement. Listen, Martin Luther King Jr. once said that a social movement that only moves people is merely a revolt. A movement that changes both people and institutions is a revolution. A social movement is defined as a loosely organized but sustained campaign in support of some social goal, typically either the implementation or prevention of a change within the society's structure or values. And those social movements range in size and scale. They're essentially a collective resulting from the coming together of people who share common outlook on society. Santita, from the Knights of Labor movement to the women's suffrage movement, from the Black freedom movements to the immigration rights movement, American history is replete with groups of people who've made strides to effect lasting change. And though validity exists in their
Dr. Knight is on.
not every effort to shift systems and sensibilities within society maintains the momentum to modulate from a moment to a movement. With easy access to information these days, a revolving news cycle and fleeting attention spans, the honesty is that it can be difficult to direct the focus and energy of people for prolonged periods of time. So how is it that some things just last for a moment while others mature into movements? Well, I did a little research, and I discovered 5 fundamental factors shared by all successful movements. Number 1, there's clarity of purpose. You got to move beyond the slogans and the hashtags and effectively express what it is that you desire to be done. Number 2, they are values-driven. They are values-driven visions. It's in creating a shared consciousness within the group and galvanizing them around purpose that discipline will develop to stay the course in the face of opposition and stress. Number 3, the strength is sustained in small groups. Solomon Asch, this noted psychologist in the 50s, found power in the pressure that smaller groups have in leading individuals to conform. And so large crowds then become the effect of successful small group mobilization. Number 4, they rely on engagement over rhetoric. The best way to change minds will always be through face-to-face engagement. Spewing rhetoric rarely persuades. And then number 5, they build bridges, not walls. You can't create change that lasts by constantly creating enemies to undermine your cause. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech spoke not just to the problems that were plaguing African Americans, but the genius of that speech was that it spoke to the founding principles of this nation. And this grew the movement beyond its core constituency and inspired change by influencing outsiders. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to shift from a moment to a movement and achieve success and sustainability, you're going to have to turn adversaries into allies. And as I considered the patchwork of these 5 principles that I just shared and their power to propel movements, I could not help but to consider one of the most successful and sustainable social movements of all times. That's known as the Jesus movement. And when I consider those first century followers of Jesus and how they modulated his message from a moment to a movement in the aftermath of his crucifixion on Calvary, where his efforts and his work could have easily died out with him, I wonder what principles I could glean from those first century disciples that could help us young people who are standing on the shoulders of people like your father and Martin Luther King and John Lewis and so many others in this current climate who desire to create a more just society and a peaceful world. What is it that we can do to maintain momentum so that the work isn't just for a moment, but it maintains the momentum of a movement? And I saw 3 quick things. What I first noticed was that if we're going to maintain momentum with the movement, we have to be united in purpose. Got to be united in purpose. Group dynamics dictate that when individuals recognize the shared vision of the group and strive towards that purpose, that collective effort renders the goal that much more attainable. It's in recognizing our interdependence upon one another and uniting behind the shared purpose of justice and peace that our movement will maintain its momentum. But not only do we have to be united in purpose, second, we've got to be united in power. If a movement is going to gain momentum, there needs to be a spark to ignite combustion. Rosa Parks' arrest, that was a spark. Emmett Till's murder, that was a spark. Bloody Sunday on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that was a spark. George Floyd's murder, that was a spark. It was the events of these unsuspecting moments that motivated and mobilized movements. They provided for people power, the ability to act effectively, and the capacity to influence the behaviors of others and the course of events. Listen, we might each have a different function. The power might present different in each person and personality, but being united in purpose, we've got the same goal. And I'm simply seeking to suggest that if you do what you've been created to do and be who you've been created to be and to function, and if I do the same thing, and if our neighbors do the same thing, that power packed together will sustain this movement and it won't lose its momentum. Let me see if I can paint the picture a little clearer for somebody today. Snowflakes are fragile things, but when they stick together, they're a force to be reckoned with. If you've ever been hit by a snowball, you know what I'm talking about. But not only must we be united in purpose and united in power, third and finally, we've got to be united in performance. Here's the amazing thing. The model has been made and the blueprint has been built for us by our ancestors, by people who have labored and sacrificed, again, like your father and so many others. And so it's incumbent upon us to now function united in our performance. We know what to do. We know what direction to go in. We know the issues that are plaguing us and pressing us and holding many people back. We know who the marginalized groups are in our community, in our society. If we would just join our performance together, we can bring about lasting change. We can bring about peace and justice and a more humane society. It's not just a moment, it's a movement. And I'm challenging everybody that's listening today to join this movement that was started so long ago, that's continued to show positive dividends and will continue to do so if we all could just unite together.
The snowflakes. You're on today on Facebook at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on your Facebook page. And when will you be preaching at New Covenant?
I'll be preaching not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, 9 a.m. at New Covenant Baptist Church, 77th and Cottage Grove in Chicago. You can catch us on Facebook, on YouTube, even on the live stream at the church's website.
Well, we'll be seeing you, of course, at Rainbow Push, and we are going to be working on the Tulsa issue. Reverend Dr. Turner is on his way in and is looking forward to spending time with you and got a lot to talk about. And so I'm so glad that you have, you're functioning in your family tradition. Indeed, Dr. King was kicked out of his denomination because of his activism. And so Pastor Thurston's family was central to creating what is called, they were kicked out of the National Baptist Convention. Can I tell the story? You can tell it. And they had to create something else called the Progressive Baptist, right? Of which your father became president. That's about 2.5 million.
That's correct.
Black churchgoers. But Dr. King was kicked out of the National Baptist Convention. Oh no, he was a very controversial person in his time. And the people who stood with him were controversial. So when Pastor Thurston, when your grandfather stood with him, he had to leave the National Baptist Convention too. Oh, but it's true. I'm not, Pastor, come on.
That's right, but they created momentum and created a movement that still impacts us to this day. And so we celebrate the sacrifice and struggle. That's it.
All the
guys.
All the crazy renegade pastors. All the folks who ordained my father. That's why he is who he is. Oh, y'all. We're gonna have Dr. Shanina Knight on the other side of the break. She's gonna give us a few minutes so we can talk about infection prevention. We are looking at all of this sitting water, Pastor Thurston, that people have. Water that they're trying to get out of their homes. Mold is like one issue. You got a whole lot of issues. A lot of people still have orders where they cannot use the water from the tap. but they're still washing their hands with it. They're still bathing in it. Got a lot to talk about here on the Santita Jackson Show. Yeah, it's here now. The Push Convention is here. Go to 930 East 50th Street. I cannot wait to see you there today and tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to have a big barbecue, reunion, and all of that. Vice President Harris will be at After College starting at 2 o'clock on Sunday. And Secretary Marsha Fudge from HUD, and so many people will be there. It's going to be great. That's more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. You know, I'm doing what our fathers and grandfathers do. Doctor. That was everybody got called doctor. Oh boy. Dr. Knighton.
Good morning.
How are you? I'm sorry I had to move you over today, but you know, I want you to come on and do your thing for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'm just going to step back and give you the runway. How about that?
Got you. And I looking, and that's the thing. You know, I hear we still dropping up the bed with contaminated water. Huh?
Girl, I mean, does it ever stop? It's like contaminated water. Whew. All this contaminated, all this nasty water. And oh boy, it just you know, it's worrisome. Because many of us don't know, you know, what is it? Isn't skin the largest organ in the human body?
Yeah. I just like, it's so disturbing now because like I just really don't think that's it. You're right, and it absorbs everything. And when we talk, it's so much. Like even too, the fact that we can even talk about hepatitis A. When we're talking about, you know, the issues associated with water. So it's very disturbing right now in terms of what's going on. And then what's so crazy is
Dwight the keys on.
everything can be bleach. The bleach right now, or some sort of bleach product, is almost like everybody's best friend.
What did you say? I mean, you went out. What did you just say? Bleach what?
Bleach is like everybody's friend in this sort of situation.
Oh boy!
So they need to try to
my grandmother's house smelled like bleach.
Yeah, that's why they pour in swimming water.
Oh, I mean, look, her house smelled of bleach. She believed in it. And maybe because she worked in the hospital. And, you know, it's just a lot. But I've got Dwight McKee here. Dwight McKee.
Good morning.
Okay, you know, we're talking, you know, we still have all this standing water, Dwight, all over the area and all around the country, quite frankly. It's a real health hazard. So we're going to open up this segment.
The sad part is, the sad part of this seems that they sacrifice the poor areas to save the downtown. They back the river up.
I'm going to let you say that on the air. Just let you say that on the air. It'll be nice and quick because I gotta, you know, it's a game of interest. I'm blocking out 5 minutes for Dr. Knighton. But if you would make that observation and Dr. Knighton just go, because that was the point that you made yesterday, Dr. Knighton.
Yeah, it is, and like the thing is, it's a real thing. Like somebody having that poor infrastructure does.
We have about 10 seconds.
And not everybody.
Stand by. Stand by, everybody. We're coming up. Whenever.
Sorry, I was calling the guest. I'll go ahead and text you who's on so far.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
everybody. Welcome. To the Santita Jackson Show. We're talking about the movement. Is it still relevant today? Of course, the Rainbow Push International Conference begins today. We're having a reunion, the 40th anniversary of Reverend Jackson's historic presidential runs, which was started by an historic voter registration drive. No one has registered more people to vote in the United States of America in the history of the Republic than Reverend Jesse Jackson. And there's still much work to be done. And even as he struggles with Parkinson's disease right now, he is pushing us to do the work, And Vice President Kamala Harris will meet us at 2:00 on Sunday at the Apostolic Church of God on 64th and George Chester. I hope that you'll be there. Secretary Marsha Fudge from HUD, she's going to be at our convention. We have a whole lot of people who are coming in. Not just to look at these presidential runs, but to look at the work that still must be done. Affirmative action is on the line. Even as I congratulate, and I think we have got to, I can't say this enough, Mildred Garcia, Puerto Rican American woman. She will become the first Latina chancellor of a major American university. Our hat goes off to her. She will oversee 23 campuses. It's the nation's largest four-year university system. So for the first time in our history, that is happening. And so we need to celebrate that today. Mildred Garcia, everybody, making some history. Not the first person with the ability, but certainly the first person with the opportunity. Congratulations to you, Dr. Garcia. Before we pivot to the movement and its relevance today, let us, we're going to shift Chaparral to the bottom of the next hour. I want to go to Dr. Knighton because, she was supposed to have been on a little bit earlier, but we ran a little long, and I thank you for your patience. But Dwight McKee made an observation as we're looking at, the fragility of our infrastructure and, quite frankly, the failings of it. The American Society of Civil Engineers gives us a C- across the country. More than $20 trillion would be needed, Dwight McKee. They estimate to put our infrastructure, America's infrastructure, where it needs to be in 2023. So you were saying that as we're watching all of this standing water, and these storms have been unrelenting, and we're going to have thunderstorms today. We don't know what the strength is going to be, but we do know, as cool as it's been and as hot as it's going to be, as hot as it is, we're breaking records all around the country. These storms today could probably be really fierce too. But you made an observation, and I want Dr. Knighton to take off from there. What was your observation that you made during the break?
Just let me add that $20 trillion is without the change in climate. When climate change comes in, it's going to be much more because the catastrophe is going to be more severe. When you look at Vermont being underwater today and Texas being at 120 degrees and California being fallen into the ocean, that has only become more exacerbated as global warming kicks in. But the observation I was making earlier about Chicago is that a lot of these people got flooded out because they reversed the river. And it was an attempt to save downtown from floods at the expense of the poor people and people in the community. As you remember, some years ago, downtown completely flooded out, and it cost people, the businessmen, a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so this time around, they said they had to make a choice between downtown potentially flooding and sacrificing the West and the South and the North sides. And of course, they chose to sacrifice those poor people. And hopefully they'll be able to find some relief in insurance or government assistance.
Well, we'll see.
Do it for some, but it's not looking promising.
We'll see, because more and more insurance companies are saying they're not going to insure houses in California. They are pushing back real hard, too. Dr. Knighton, what do we do when we have the sitting water in our homes and in our neighborhoods? And these orders about boiling the water. How do you bathe? What are you supposed to do?
Well, that's the thing, Santita. It's all complicated because we know that no two scenarios are going to be the same, and that's what makes it hard for someone. Meaning, for example, if it is a storm, literally somebody telling somebody to boil water, it's going to be a difference between whether or not they got an electric stove or a gas stove. So that's one. even in a storm, right? Because if I'm in a storm and somebody got water backing up, do I even got electricity to even be able to boil anything? And that's like right there within that moment. And it's crazy because I remember back in, I kid you not, like 1995, and I think it might have been like Hurricane Andrew. Now, mind you, we're all the way in Ohio. We were without power for 6 days. And the only saving grace that we had was because we did have a gas stove. But we still, again, living in poverty, still had to cook everything and had to spend like literally the days outside. So I recommend to people right now, when you are in a situation such as that, facing standing water.
All your guests are on except for Reverend Yuri.
As much as possible. A lot of times it's not the actual storms that kill people, but it's the aftermath that kills them because they're not realizing their food might not necessarily be at adequate temperature in order for them to eat, and so that can make them sick. When they're near standing water, and let's say they're putting their hands in it, they don't recognize, that it's filled with bad fungus, bad bacteria, viral particles, bad living particles that essentially, when their wounds come in contact with it, it actually ends up putting them at risk for an infection. And so even too, we heard from those Houston storms how people would have like flesh-eating disease, as a result of being in a standing water afterwards. So I recommend to individuals that, yes, having to bathe in water or interact with water is, if you have water, you may need to actually put it in a bucket or put it in some beach to ensure that it is somewhat clean. I'm not telling you it's going to do the full job, but it'll be in better condition than that standing water or that water that may have not necessarily been adequately treated. If you have things that are in the basement, and let's say right then and there you cannot wash them, if the sun is out, remember that the sun is very powerful and it can serve as a UV treatment. Lay stuff out in the sun in order for it to dry. It will not kill everything, but the sun, something being in direct sunlight, will do what it needs to do to also start to remove some of those germs as well. And so I know that there's so many topics, Santita, that I can go over today, but for the sake of time, I'm going to stop there. But I just want to remind people that, yes, we are facing some storms right now, and I can say a lot of storms. But the thing is we haven't even hit tropical storm season / hurricane season, or like the peak of it. And so with that being said, we have to prepare because this will not be the last of what we will see this season. And you want to make sure that you have key items on hand because none of us are exempt from bad weather.
Something to think about, everybody. Well, there's a lot for us to go over, and we'll be doing it in the coming days and weeks because these once in a lifetime, once in 100 year, once in a millennium storms, they're coming every other week. So what does that say? I mean, the capital of Vermont is underwater right now. Much of California, they're sliding into the ocean. So it's something for us to think about. Sending you so much love, Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Please, her handle on social media is Hey Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA, at Hey Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. Sending you so much love. Everybody's getting ready for this Rainbow Push International Conference. We're very excited about it. It's the 40th anniversary of Reverend Jackson's historic voter registration drive, which kicked off his historic presidential runs, or should I say because Reverend Jackson was very, very careful to say when he announced in 1983, when I win, you win. It wasn't about me making history and me, a vocal exercise. No. He said, no, this is a voter exercise, and this is your freedom exercise. When I win, you win. And American politics and world politics, quite frankly, was completely changed. I cannot tell you the people who we have met all over the world who say, I was inspired when I saw him run, even if I don't agree with him politically, seeing him there and seeing someone speak from my life experience meant the world to me. And so we're going to be talking about that and the movement today and why it's important. Is it still relevant as we look at the writer's strike? Hollywood has been shut down because these workers, these working people are saying, wait a minute, the industry has changed. And now what producers and studios want me to do is as an extra, someone who's not a superstar, right? They want me to they want to scan my face, take my physical image and take my voice, pay me one time and have the right to use my image and my voice forever and ever and not pay me. This is where we are. Oh, you need some advocacy. So we are talking with Attorney Darrell Jones. So excited that you're here. Attorney Aaron Connolly. You know, we're all going to be meeting here this week. Reverend Jeanette Wilson and Dwight McKee. You and Dwight McKee, you're one of the founding board members at Operation Push. You and Allie Walker were the two youngest board members. Allie was 17, 18. You were about the same, just slightly older. Do we still need a movement today?
Oh, definitely. We need more of it, as much as we've ever needed one, just to maintain the gains that we thought we had won with the movement. To try to maintain that. I talked the other day about that Dr. King wrote a book called Strength of Love. Sophie Carmichael wrote a book called Black Power. Well, Black Power got us in the door. Power gets you in, but strength is what allows you to hold on to what you achieve. You need both power and strength. And so that's an evolving proposition. That is a extension of what's going on around you and what the opposition is. Most strategies in professional sports change during halftime. That's what halftime is about. At halftime, you go to the locker room and you make an adjustment in your strategy based on what the opposition is doing. And that's the same thing in civil rights, is that we have to change our strategy based on what the opposition is doing. And if we want to stay in the game or win the game, because they have also an evolving strategy. You know, politics at its core is about earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas. We are earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas. And we need earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas to function. And politics is about who has access to earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas. It's every day there's somebody in the world trying to impinge upon somebody else's earth, wind, fire, and water. And so once we understand how elementary, quote unquote, that politics is, that it operates at an elementary level, then we understand the importance. Because if you're not careful, if you're not vigilant, if you don't have a military, if you don't have a strategy to protect your earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas, then you will look up and you will have none of it left. You would be like the Native Americans who lost, their earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas. The whole military is set up to protect earth, wind, fire, water. The Navy, water, the Air Force, air, the Marines, earth, it's that basic for us. And if we don't understand that we're talking about life itself, we're talking about the right to breathe, the right to eat, the right to drink, that politics decides that, then we don't understand, life itself. And when you talk about civil rights, that's really what you're talking about, is the right to the essentials of life.
And I think that we do not understand that. We become very emotional about our politics, and therefore you do need advocates. You need people who are pushing for you, and people who are pulling for you, people who are advocating for you. And Reverend Jeanette Wilson, that is what we do at Rainbow Push. That is what our civil rights organizations have done. they advocate for you. And I would say that, when you look at Melody Serta, she does that for indigenous people. She doesn't exclude anyone else. You see that in the AAPI community. You see it in the Jewish community. You've got to have advocates so that you don't get left behind and so that you can continue to hold on to the gains that you've made. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, I hear something in the background, everybody. Please keep everything keep anything that's going on to the background. Please keep it quiet. Reverend Wilson.
Well, I think that Dwight has laid out an analysis, but when you look at the civil rights struggle, human rights struggle, for example, in Chicago, we have a housing crisis. And when people are struggling for just basic, clean, and safe living quarters, oftentimes they can't deal with policy fights. They don't have access to the Secretary of HUD. They don't even know who that is. Somebody has to advocate to the city, the mayor. They can't pick up the phone and call the mayor of any city and say, hey, the roaches and mice are infesting our complex. And so you have to have somebody to organize them and fight for them and with them as they struggle to change the conditions that they're living in and that their children are forced to attend school. Look at our schools across the country. Many poor African-American and Latino children attend schools that are under-resourced, and therefore students are considered underperforming, but they're not given the same available resources as you have with schools in more affluent districts like Barrington, when they're funding schools based on real estate value.
I can hear something in the back. Wait. I can hear something in the background. Everybody, please put yourself on mute if you have to do something right now, because it's in radio that your voice and all the background noises are equal, so things drown themselves out. But please continue, Reverend Wilson.
And so you need advocates like Kenwood Oakland Community Organization. You need advocates like the labor union, the Chicago Teachers Union, fighting to make sure that our schools are given the same opportunity, same resources. That's what the Board of Education was about. It was not about integrating schools. It was about integrating resources. You sending me books from my school that are used, pages torn out and are outdated for the times. I look at several schools today in the inner city. They don't have the kind of technology. We're talking about AI. These school children do not have computers every day at home and on their desk. You have students in developing worlds with more access to technology than our students have. So you have to have these advocates. You have to have these organizations that see the issues and say, I stand in the gap for these people because I'm proximate to their needs, and I am willing to fight the city, county, state, and federal elected officials to push them to change the policies that negatively impact these people, to make sure appropriations are spread more evenly or distributed more equally to all schools. We are now making decisions about health care. In Chicago, as an example, there's not a maternity ward from Roseland to the University of Chicago. So that means if a woman is pregnant, has some issues, goes into labor, she has to try to survive several miles to get to a place where they have the staff and the equipment to properly address her needs. So you have women that are having child delivery issues that they would not have if they had been given proper prenatal care, if they had proper access to maternal and infant care, like they do at Northwestern downtown for a few people within that footprint. And I'm not saying that's a bad hospital, but you can't have an excellent hospital in one part of the city and in the rest of the city, y'all just make it up the best way you can.
Absolutely.
And these are the things that we need advocates. Remember, we had no trauma center between
Christ in the south suburbs, and really county, because University of Chicago at one time closed its adult trauma. We fought to get it open because you can't have all this trauma. The place where the most trauma is occurring, no trauma availability resources available.
Absolutely.
These are the things that people have to fight for and advocate for, and you have to organize people to get them to understand this is not normal. This student loan debt, Santita,
yes,
in America is unprecedented.
Well,
I did not grow up with anybody. I'm sorry.
No.
Passionate.
No. Be passionate, but let's focus, because we are talking about student loan debt. We're talking about people don't understand it in other countries because they invest in not just young students,
education,
but they invest in educating their populace. So if you leave a job, you get re-educated for another one. But let me shift, because I want to hear, because these are people going to be participating in the convention with you under your leadership. Reverend Jeanette Wilson, and I want to hear from Aaron Connell.
And wait a minute, tell everybody, Santita, they need to come to push tomorrow, because we're starting out tomorrow advocating.
Well, actually,
and
today,
training.
because the reunion starts on the 14th, which is today. So tomorrow we're going to have a barbecue. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we're starting. So show up at 930 50th Street. I started off the show doing that. Got to listen to the top.
I know you did.
Of course. Now I've got a couple of minutes for you, Aaron Connolly. Why should we be gathering at this time?
So good morning, Santita. Good morning, Reverend. Good morning, Dwight. I'm so excited to see you in person and help with the reunion, the 40th anniversary of this historic expansion of voting rights in this country. And that's one reason we have to come together, is to celebrate the win and give all of these amazing public servants, organizers, and mentors the flowers they deserve for this movement that Reverend Jackson led and built. So I'm excited to get started with all of you this evening and continue this education for all of us, right? That's the thing I'm most excited about, and what I've found from this convention going for the last 6-7 years now is I learn something new. I create strong relationships with folks from all over the country, and I hope everyone comes to a few of the panels to expand your movement in your arena, right? We all exist in our own arena, in the public service field, and we have to bring other people in, and that's what I love about the Rainbow Push Coalition. That's why I love coming to the Saturday morning service, because it is a true rainbow, and we need to make it bigger. When we're talking about things like medical equity, when we're talking about climate justice, we look at environmental justice communities, we look at the disparities in care and the cost of medication, we look at where our wealth is going, as you mentioned, student loans, right? We have to not only understand our own role, but we have to make sure we have the tools and the information to advocate to our elected leaders, to our local leaders, to our corporations, to say, this doesn't make sense, it can be better, this is how. We are the ones that have to come up with the solutions and be ready to do the work to make it happen. And that's what I love about the city of Chicago. I think it's a unique experience to organize here in the city of Chicago, because you see, as you mentioned, Santita, true understanding that we all have to be in this together. And oftentimes we can get distracted by our own prejudices, right? And coming together and really understanding each other is the way we get around that. So I can't wait for this week. I think it's going to be a great week. You have the vice president on Sunday. We have the reunion tonight, and I'm excited to see all of the young organizers that I'm recruiting to come to this event. So I can't wait to see you today.
And then tomorrow too. It's going to be fantastic. Hey, everybody.
Tomorrow too. Absolutely.
That starts today, the Rainbow Push International Conference. You don't want to miss it. And Daryl Jones, I can't wait to hear from you, because, this was all Reverend Jackson's presidential campaigns. It's important for us to understand you had the Southern Crusade, which was an historic voter registration drive. Indeed, in that 4, 5, 6 year span, Reverend Jackson registered more people to vote formally than any person in the history of the Republic. And he's continued to do that. His footprint is so huge, but you've got to look at Cleo Fields. You've got to look at Emmett Chappelle. You've got to look at Kevin Graves. You've got to look at Frank Watkins. You've got to look at Gary Masoni. You've got to look at Steve Cobble. It's been a team, everybody. It's been a team, and you want to hear their stories. Some of them have gone on to glory, but the work is still with us. The examples are still with us. The work is here. The push is on. There's work for us to do. Come on, the job is up to you. Can't wait to see you at 930 East 50th Street. Today and tomorrow, starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll be there all day, barbecue, all of that. And so I'm going to be talking about financial literacy. I hope you stay with us, Reverend Wilson, because we're going to have Ron Whittingham from Megan Financial on with us at the bottom of the hour to talk to us about financial literacy. Indeed, it is a requirement of the kids that we're taking to these historically black colleges and universities that they come to this seminar. They've got to learn how to handle their money. And so, Daryl Jones, you're up next, so we can talk about getting people registered to vote and why that is a real civil rights issue today. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show right here on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Back in just a minute. Thank you all. Hey, everybody, be conscious of time because I'm trying to get everybody in, okay?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you all can talk. We are on Facebook Live right now. So, and YouTube. So everybody, you all can talk with one another. And please do that because I am producing the show, so I'm doing something else right now, quite frankly. So everybody. So
Reverend Wilson, how are you feeling about the convention? I know there's so many pieces going into this.
Is Reverend Wilson still there? Okay.
I guess so. I have my phone on mute. I'm saying we are really excited, and I'm looking forward to your support because you are a very good organizer. For example, tomorrow we have the head of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Honorable Secretary Marcia Fudge. And then after that, we want to have a student summit. And then we have young people learning. We're going to expose this Push Excel STEAM Academy. So people will come and see artificial intelligence. They will see robotics. They will see kids engaged in iRacing and so forth.
Mr. Navazan.
We will have conference discussions with students and their parents who are going to attend the HBCU tour, which leaves right after the convention. So I got a lot of moving parts on this Saturday. Sunday, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris will be with us at Apostolic Church of God. And the Reverend Clay Evans Gospel Concert will also be a more abbreviated concept of the gospel concert will be at Apostolic because Reverend Evans always wanted to make sure that up-and-coming artists had a platform, had an opportunity, and that we could showcase the best of gospel music in our congregations and begin to buy and do our own recordings and
Attorney Hoffer is also on.
So forth. And so he was a proponent of that. And we're honoring some outstanding gospel artists. One of the people we are honoring posthumously is Archbishop Lucius Hall, who, he supported the civil rights movement in so many different ways. He supported all of us. He was our, just anything that we needed to fuel the movement, to send people to the South, Reverend Jackson's presidential campaigns. He was one of the chief funders and fund development type people, off in the shadows, never asking for front stage, but always giving it. Most of the judges and elected officials would come to him to present their platforms at his amazing dinner. So we're honoring him. We're honoring Loretta Oliver and her sister. I just can't even remember all the names. Livonia Whitley, the mother of great singing within the Church of God in Christ. Well, 3 of them came from the Church of God in Christ. So we have that on Sunday, and then Monday, the most amazing international work will be reflected, where Reverend Jackson has touched every corner of the continent of Africa. He's been to South America, and so he's receiving one of the highest awards from Colombia, being presented by the ambassador of Colombia on Monday. And then Monday afternoon, a major student summit on student loan debt and many other things. We have a training sponsored by the Chicago Teachers Union on the elected school board. If you want to be on the elected school board in Chicago, if you want to know what it means to really do an elected school board and how you have to govern and the issues, you need to meet us Monday afternoon at the Rubenstein Forum.
Where is that?
High school students.
Where is the Rubenstein Forum?
It's 601 East 60th Street.
Okay. On the campus of the University of Chicago.
On the campus of the University of Chicago.
And just let's keep it tight, because on Tuesday we have our financial literacy seminar. Joan Esposito, my colleague here at WCPT, is going to be broadcasting live from the Rubenstein Center at the University of Chicago. And you're doing something interesting this year with that. Reverend Wilson, you are requiring that those who go on the HBCU college tour, that they attend. Why?
They must attend the session. Why? Because we want to make sure that our young people don't get caught up having credit card debt in college. They need to understand how to manage money, the business of money, and not graduate in debt, but graduate investing and moving forward to wealth building. And that's what we're going to talk about on Tuesday. It's required. If you want to go on the college tour with Push Excel, you must show up and learn how to manage money. That's one of the critical things that many of us missed at the age of 18, 19, 20, and 21, and some of us still trying to struggle with it at 40, 50, and 60. So come to the WCPT Financial Literacy Conference. But let's back up to the morning. We have the CEO of Bally's. I know you hear about these casinos. What does it mean? What kind of jobs? What kind of contracts? Well, you can come to the business breakfast. And then Monday night.
1 minute.
Santita, you remember it's a different world.
I got 30 seconds.
Okay. I guess y'all don't remember. It's a different world. Don Lewis will be at the convention Monday night.
Okay, that's right. No, and she's done such great work down through the years. We love Dawn Lewis. Know her from New York, because she was in the school of in these wonderful theatrical programs. My friend Kim Sylvain, Marcus Miller, all these people came out of the public school system.
30 seconds.
In New York, developing their artistry. Stand by, everybody. Mr. Nava, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I'm going to cede my headlines to you, so if you can give me about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely.
10
Thank
seconds.
you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey,
dreaming.
everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday, July 14, 2023. A joy to be with you on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Yvonne Hanks, one of our morning stars, drove in from New York. Hey, she is here with us. Welcome to Chicago. Message us so we can get in touch with you and see you today. And make your way on over to Rainbow Push. Reverend Wilson, we have to take care of her. She just got in her camper and drove here because she wanted to be a part. And we thank you, Yvonne. And so many of the morning stars will be joining us. And we want to see you and take care of you. Hey, everybody. Call us at 773-763-9278. We're talking about the movement and its importance. The Rainbow Push International Conference really kicks off today, but in earnest, we are going to be in the house tomorrow. Marsha Fudge, Secretary Marsha Fudge from HUD will be there. Vice President Kamala Harris will be at our Clay Evans Memorial Concert, which will be at the Apostolic Church of God at 64th and Dorchester. And we will have the Megan Financial Literacy Seminar. Our kids will be there, but you should be there too. To talk about everybody. And in Chicago, we're going to have more thunderstorms. 86 degrees will be the high. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 90 degrees. It will be mostly sunny. The Major League Baseball All-Star break is over. So the Twins will be meeting the Athletics. The Red Sox will be meeting the Cubs. And the White Sox are in Atlanta. In the WNBA, well, they're taking a few days off because they worked right on through. In soccer, tomorrow, Chicago will be facing Toronto. And Minnesota will be facing LA. But I have got someone who I had on yesterday, and I just thought he was such a he's a tremendous leader in the township of Cicero and really in Chicago. And we're watching his leadership and it just growing. Mr. Nava, Gerardo Nava, you went to a meeting yesterday because standing water and this, with these storms, we're going to have some more storms today. Mr. Nava, we're going to have some more. This is a real issue. And, getting clean water in America is a real issue for a whole lot of people today. What meeting did you attend and what happened?
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Santita Johnson. I appreciate them being back on the air with you this morning. So, the meeting I attended to the other day, around 10:30 in the morning, it was the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. This is located around the 100 block and East Erie Street in Chicago, downtown. So I attended the meeting to kind of basically announce to the chair, the board, all the different committees that attended, talk to them about a couple of demands that some of the community members in Cicero kind of had concern in regards to what happened over with the flooding damage that occurred in Cicero. And I try to do a little bit of my best to not only advocate just for Cicero and for Berwyn, but also to advocate for other people within the metropolitan area of the Chicagoland area. So, some of the things I was talking about the damage that was taking place, the amount of rainfall that was occurring, the lack of cooperation from the town of Cicero that was occurring during the day of the flooding of July 2nd. So these were a couple of demands that we were talking about. We were talking about, and I quote, calling all state, community, county, and local agencies to come together to create a comprehensive long-term solution to our crumbling infrastructure. So we asked the board of the Metropolitan District to look at a couple of things and kind of keep in mind of some of the demands that many community members would genuinely have as far as rebuilding our communities, our infrastructure, making sure that if we could avoid any significant damage like the flooding we occurred on July 2nd, hopefully we can try to do a better job next time around with rainfall. Hits us that bad. So we talked about trying to promote expedited permits at no cost for town residents. We talked about trying to allocating significant funds for repairs and damages. We talked about specifically trying to help replace outdated sewer lines and advocating for an investment into green infrastructure. Specifically, when we talk about increasing native foliage, establishing some rain gardens, increasing more trees to kind of absorb heavy rainfalls, and then trying to look at expanding on tree canopy projects. I know at town of Cicero specifically, we have about a 12% investment in trees, and I know the last year or so, the town has spent funds and time to remove over 200 trees within our community. Now, the question is whether or not that significant amount of loss of green infrastructure may have had a significant impact on the amount of flooding that we had in the town. That data has yet to be determined. But, considering the amount of flooding we've experienced over the past couple of years, and considering the flooding that we experienced just this year, like feel free to judge on that. I mean, it seems like it's obvious, how much of an impact that played. And then the last part of it was paving our roads with permeable pavement. So all of these demands were kind of expressed in about the first couple of minutes of public comments. And I and a few other individual members, like Carlos Perez, who works with Local 1, which SEIU, was taking the time over there to kind of express some of the similar concerns and kind of just there to review and evaluate the different concerns for some of his members that they conveniently have over in Cicero. And of course, he was happy that I was able to attend because I know he was trying to get a friend of mine to go along to the meeting as well to kind of express. But he was happy that someone from Cicero was able to kind of express some of the concerns that residents had and kind of like really expressing the significance of the damage there. And I stayed the entire time, from the time that they were meeting from 10:30 to the time when they had their board meeting, they had the closed session meeting. It was just a closed session meeting for about an hour, and they reconvened again. And I spent a lot of time trying to just emphasize and kind of express the information about how the town of Cicero is having a public hearing in regard to the flooding damage.
When is the public hearing? Because I'm going to have to pivot. When is the public hearing? What can we do?
Okay, so particularly this applies to a bunch of people, particularly in the town of Cicero. So there's a public hearing that's going to be occurring with the Metropolitan District. Several members have been invited. I can confirm with you today, this morning, just speaking words directly with the president of the Metropolitan District, Carrie Steele, who is the president of the WMRD. She confirms that she will be present at this public hearing, along with Ms. Steele's assistant by the name of John Joner. He's an administrative assistant of part of the board. So,
well, I think what you're helping us to see is how important it is for people, Reverend Wilson, Dwight McKee, and Attorney Darrell Jones, and Attorney Aaron Connolly, and Reverend Wilson, and Attorney C.K. Hoffler. This republic, we have democratic aspects, but first we're a republic. In order for it to work, you have to be involved. Decisions are made about you, around you. They need to be made with you. And if you're not present, you don't get counted. So I want you to come back next week and talk to us about this, because this water issue, it's a big issue. It's not just lead pipes, everybody. Now we've got sewage coming up through people's basements. How do you get it out? And that's going to cost a lot of money. Cities, towns, counties, they have resources. You're going to have to make a choice between Ukraine and what's happening in our drains. How about that? You're going to have to do that. Sending you so much love, Mr. Nava, Gerardo Nava, from the Rizoma Project. He is doing so much great work that I have him back so he can really walk us through this, because it's important for you to know, because many of us are trying to figure out what to do. Sending you so much love. We have a tremendous panel here as we talk about the Rainbow Push International Conference. Before I go to the chair of our board, let me go to you, Darrell Jones, Transformative Justice Coalition Chair. Indeed, Reverend Jackson, many people have to, I keep emphasizing that his presidential campaigns were started by a voter registration drive. And he'd been registering people to vote since the Voting Rights Act had been signed in 1965, which is what LBJ, President Johnson, told us to do. He said, now Negro leaders, go home and teach your people to be citizens. You got to get them registered to vote, and they got to vote. Do we need to continue to meet about that today, Attorney Darrell Jones?
Oh, Santita, without question, do we need to? We got to. We must. And we are. Let me tell you, just to make it plain real quick, because some folks are thinking, that was yesterday's news, worried about voter registration, all that other stuff. The level field, the field now is level, and therefore, it's much to do about nothing. But let me make it clear, okay? This week, in the Congress, in the House of Representatives, there was introduced 50 separate bills that attack voting rights, primarily impacting the communities of color. What they call it, the ACE Act, ACE. It's actually the American Confidence in Elections Act is the acronym that they use, the name that they've given it. But in essence, what this bill would do, right, is that it would prohibit third-party collection of ballots, so that the League of Women Voters and other third-party organizations, Rainbow Push, that may collect ballots for those that are unable to deliver and cast their ballots themselves, it would make that illegal. Okay. In addition, it would have yearly purging, meaning that would be removing people from the rolls, voter rolls, every year for various reasons. It would stop same-day voter registration. It would require signature verification. So when you register to vote at 18, it may not look like what your signature may not look like at 18, what it looks like at 45. And they would then be able to discount your vote, to get rid of your vote. It would limit drop boxes that are available to make it easy in communities to be able to access the vote and being able to vote. Not only that, it would limit and require that the local jurisdictions, they would only count mail-in ballots that were received by election day, meaning that although you mailed your ballot in on time, the mail was slow and it didn't get there on that day and it came later. This bill that has been proposed in the House of Representatives would say that ballots shouldn't count. This is why the whole meaning, the whole fight that Reverend Jackson was in and registering voters and getting people out, it's still alive today. It's still relevant today. This is what's going to be discussed, during this Rainbow Push conference from July the 15th to the 19th. We're going to be pushing these issues. We're going to be talking about these issues. We're going to be talking about what is relevant today. Yes, there were a lot of advancements that were made. We're to the point now where we have many community-based representatives that are there to stand up and fight for us in both the U.S. House of Representatives and in the Senate. But we need more, and we need to understand and appreciate the issues that are current day before us that we're addressing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, Santita. As you know, we have a whole lot more to discuss. You've got to be in the House July the 15th through the 19th to have these discussions and to talk about ways to combat them, ways to fight back, ways to be certain that our vote remains protected from that fight that we've seen that has come out, that's come forward from Reverend Jackson and all that he has put forth and volunteered and surrendered for this precious right to vote, Santita.
Absolutely. I mean, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, you see, I mean, this is what I think they call it, the big lie bill. Isn't that what they call it, Attorney Jones? I mean, it's a cute, catchy title, but you see all that's in it. And then we look at affirmative action, which is at stake, which is something, we've all been talking about. And this is a big deal. And Dwight reminds us that this political struggle, Dwight, you put it so well. I've got a minute because I need to feed it to CK, that it's not a static struggle, it's dynamic. And what did you say, halftime? The team has to go in and assess what they've done and then reassess what they need to do?
Yeah, that's what halftime is. Halftime, you go in the locker room and you assess what you've done, you assess what the other team has done, you make strategic adjustments, and the other team is trying to adjust to what you do. And so it played itself out in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. That's why you need a coach. And the role of the civil rights organizations is to help us plan those strategies and to advocate for us because we're fighting with 2, 3, 4, 5 teams all fighting over the same resources, all fighting in the same game. And to the victor belong the spoils. Politics is very basic. That's why I said it is earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas. And the reason these homes flooded the other day is it was a political decision. If somebody downtown made a decision that they would sacrifice their homes and save the homes of those who would, save the businesses of those that were downtown. That was a political decision. It was a domestic impact, but the politics was decided downtown. We had to pay for the flood, but we didn't make those decisions. Is the last week, the air came in, was polluted. The worst air in the country was in Chicago, coming down from the fires in Canada. Those fires came out of political decisions: earth, wind, fire, and water, and ideas. And that is what politics is about.
And we're meeting because, I just came across this story. President Biden signed an executive order yesterday that makes as many as 3,000 American reservists available to go to Europe in support of NATO in Ukraine. I mean, these are our resources. These are our people. We need them to help us to clean up all this sludge that we have in our homes. Yes, CK, I was coming to you.
This is my family.
I'm sorry.
Reservists too.
Yes.
So I want to note that thank you for mentioning that these are people with families that are up to go fight this war. So that's all.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's all. Both my parents are from military families, and so the fact is, the fact is, this is very real. These are political decisions that are being made about us, being made around us, but we're not in it, Aaron. And the thing is, these people are, and they're being used to do what? They don't even know why they're going. They have no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have no idea. And you got sewage coming up through the basement. They're going to get new infrastructure over there. We need new infrastructure over here. Our infrastructure, CK, is 100 years old. We got some needs, CK, and we have to know how to fight for them.
No, absolutely, Santita. And this challenge that we have with infrastructure, with failing structures that are killing people, killing families, exposing families to toxins, it's real. And Daryl said something about this ACE bill. We talked about this earlier this week. This ACE bill is mirrored in large part after the Georgia voter suppressive laws, and Georgia, I believe, probably has the worst voter suppressive laws in the country. So it all is tied together. Because what we are seeing, what we are experiencing is the execution of a very, very significant conservative plan that has been in the works for a very long time. The challenge that we have, because many of us have been asleep at the wheel. Yes, people have been fighting, but not fighting with the same level of zeal, organization, and passion as those who are now victorious and putting in place some of these draconian voter suppressive laws and other things. Other laws that are really laws that are going to stand in our communities. So that's I'm bringing it back to the conference. Reverend Jackson has set a trajectory for us. He's been on a trajectory for the longest of fighting for our rights. And what we're doing at our conference is honoring his incredible work, but we're also pushing forward a plan of action, a call to action, because there are no laurels for us to rest on right now.
Reverend Wilson is off.
Being challenged, we are in a severe and significant crisis. So this conference comes at a great time because there is, if ever Reverend Jackson's voice were needed, and the voice of those who come behind him and all of us, it is now. Because we are in a crisis. And if no one recognizes that we're in a crisis, from infrastructure to voting rights, to women's reproductive rights, to immigration rights, to privacy rights, to human rights, to civil rights, and we don't recognize that now, then you just don't recognize what's happening in this world and in this country. And what happens here has an impact globally. And so all of these issues and more will be discussed at the conference. Civil rights is irrelevant today more than ever. Do we need the voices of civil rights leaders today? More than ever. We have to actually take our game up from a legal standpoint, because all of these issues are sourced in legal dynamics, laws. When we had, which we discussed on your show, Santita, when the case in Oklahoma, the Tulsa, Oklahoma dismissal of the case involving the Greenwood bombing, the fact that that happened, and the fact that a judge who perceives herself as being really a conservative, for lack of a better term, she was just ruling based on the way that a lot of conservative judges rule. So if people aren't persuaded that it's important to vote and why it's important to vote, just look at some of the decisions that are coming out of the court case.
But that's why you need to be there. Chris Keys just sent me a message. Chris Keys is coming in from South Africa. People are coming in from all over the world, and you need to be there. And we just see Aaron. I mean, and that wasn't a headline today, Aaron. 3,000 American reservists are being sent to Europe to fight in Ukraine. I mean, those 3,000 people right here in Chicago and in Vermont to help us to clean out the drains. Dwight, I got 20 seconds.
And they're sending them over to protect other people's access to earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas. So they are risking their life to protect those people's access to those things, as their access to their own earth, wind, fire, water, and ideas are being reduced in the United States.
So, what does that mean? 20 seconds, Dwight. Close us out.
It means that you are giving your life to protect other people's interests while you are forsaking the life of you and your families in other people's behalf, because the people here political people have made their decision, and that's why you have to fight here even before you fight there for your access to the political situation that controls your life.
Oh, wait a minute. I hear the reasons that we're here from Earth, Wind, and Fire. I couldn't resist it, Dwight. Come on.
Okay.
I couldn't resist. Everybody, meet us over at Great Push today. We're over there today. And of course, tomorrow, big barbecue and all of that. But get on over there, because we are having a reunion. And we're going to be inspired by one another. Yvonne, welcome to Chicago, my girl. One of my morning stars. Goes in from New York within her camper, y'all. We got to make sure we give her much love. And all the morning stars. Sending you so much love. Ron Whittingham and Make It Financial in just a few minutes. Stay right there. Okay, and if you could call Reverend Wilson right back, please. Do we have?
You want me to call her back?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll do.
But thank you all so much. This is great. When do you get in, CK? Today? Tomorrow?
No, I get in tomorrow.
Okay.
So I will definitely give you a call. I have to run for my 8:30. I've got a big meeting, but great. I will see you tomorrow. See everyone in Chicago. I'm looking forward to it. It's just going to be another part of history that we create.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited.
Absolutely. And okay, let me see. Okay, I'm going to give you another number to call. Mr. Castaneda for her. Okay. So much love. Is Ron there?
Hey, Santita, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad I got you. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. I'm back to good. Took a while, but I'm back to good.
Everybody I know, we think we can just jump up off these little procedures. I'm like, I don't think so.
Well, the older I've learned, the older we get, the harder the turnaround is.
Well, they test your recovery with you have to get well. It's a body at rest that's tested. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, and I don't rest well, and I'm a typical guy that I want to be back to good here in a minute, and it's frustrating to the length of time it takes to actually heal.
Well, I told Melissa that. I said, I think he thinks he's just going to rebound quickly. Doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. No, and I've learned it.
Okay.
No answer from Reverend Wilson.
Okay. Well, just try her again. Or try her on the other number.
Okay, I'll try her back in a couple minutes.
Thank you so much.
We have 30 minutes, Santita?
Oh, yeah. Can you be with me till 7:58? If
What do you need
not,
me to do?
well, yeah, just, because we're going to talk about financial literacy, because it has now been required that we're going to have the kids from our Push Excel program. They're going to be there along with their parents. And we're going to start there because, I think about all the admonitions my parents gave me about my little announcement when I went away to college. And boy, I had a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, my father said, you haven't. Well, I was on full scholarship too. So, come on. So, I mean, and then I had my scholarship gave me money too. Oh, my gosh. Then I'd see my father, he'd give me some more money. Oh, Lord.
1 minute.
I was shopping. I was
This is easy, right?
it was just nuts. I wasn't crazy, but, I did get the clothes I wanted. I did. And dishes, which I did not need, which tied up my credit for like 2 years. My mother was like, where are you getting dishes? Because they would sell them in the dormitory. And I thought I was doing something, My mother got these dishes at the house. She was like, what's I need more dishes for? Did you?
30 seconds.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I remember when I was in college in the lunchroom area, they had like credit card companies signed up there. I mean, and they're preying on people,
And they need to hear about that. And you catch it in the airport. Yeah. I mean, you catch it all over the place. So that is
10 seconds.
What I mean. Stand by. We're coming up. Thank you. And Dwight, are you still there?
Stand by.
I am.
Okay, very good. I have a couple of people here who can also go through the financial literacy.
Change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We're beginning our Rainbow Push International Conference today. Financial literacy is the order of the day, everybody. We are dealing with financial freedom here. We're going from civil rights to silver rights. You can get into the neighborhood by law. You can live any place you want. But if you don't have the money, if you have not allocated your monies properly, that which you earn, it's not going to happen, everybody. And so, for example, if you're a first-time home buyer, which means you have not owned a home in the past 3 years, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. First-time home buyers made up only 26% of the market. Those numbers continue to drop. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac want to turn these numbers around. And so let us get on this. Let's get on this train and let's get to home ownership, everybody. And they're incentivizing first-time home buyers, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And they're having substantially lower rates, but that's happening right now. That could change at any time. So if you live in the Chicago area and earn less than $105,700 in your home, you have an opportunity to own a home. So call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, go to 56david.com and get on the path to starting some generational wealth. And that is part of the reason that I love Megant Financial. Indeed, when you hear about getting a financial advisor, you always think that you need to have high net worth. Like, if I don't make 7 figures, high 6 figures, no one's going to want to speak to me. And in many cases, that can be the case. But that's not what they're doing. They're doing something very different. They're looking at working class people, middle class people, and they are helping them to devise a plan to get to retirement. And what we're also doing with them is something interesting. And this was Ron Whittingham's idea. Let's look at college students, because we've been in college and you get preyed upon in college. You've got the credit card companies all over the colleges. They know you're a blank slate. And boy, and Ron, they get you every time. And people get their credits jammed up, tied up in college just as they're beginning. And so we want to talk about financial literacy. You see it, Dwight McKee, when you're walking through the airport. Everybody's trying to get you to get another credit card, and then you fall into more debt. Now I talk about this with Ron Whittingham, and I'm so glad because you are a sponsor of this show, and I'm so grateful that you are going to be leading this financial literacy seminar on the 18th at the Regenstein Center here at the University of Chicago on 60th Street. And we cannot wait for this to happen because we're going to have a lot of kids there and their parents too, for example. But talk to me, financial literacy, what is that? I mean, when you say financial literacy, that just sounds different.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Santita. This is, I mean, if you look at financial literacy, it's actually defined as the knowledge to do smart things with your money. So if you think about that, I mean, we all make bad decisions with money, and especially if you don't have a foundation on understanding what money is, what credit is, what debt is, you know, how can you make smart decisions with that?
But what is credit?
You know, I know.
What is good? What is good credit?
Yeah, well, good credit is not having a lot of debt. So, and like you mentioned just a minute ago, and you and I mentioned, we talked about this during the break. I mean, I actually dealt with this in college. I was in a college lunchroom, and there was a Discover card booth sitting there in the corner, and obviously I inquired, and I go, we'll give you a $1,000 credit limit just by signing up here, and I had no idea. I was 17, 18 years old, and all of a sudden I can buy anything that I wanted. And, I didn't understand that if I do that, and it's going to take me 20 plus years to pay that $1,000 back if I just make those minimum payments. And I was in college. I was working small jobs here and there in the summer, so I didn't have the income. So, I learned the hard way that, debt can be a really bad thing. And, if you're at home, and you have your debt laden, you have all these credit card bills, you have bill collectors calling you. I mean, it's depressing. You can't feel good. You're stuck underneath all this debt.
I mean, every day, and that is something. More and more Americans are living as Lynn Richardson, a great financial analyst, said. We live from payday to Monday, and you're trying to help us to rectify that because quite frankly, in your space, many people would say that a financial advisor, I don't make enough money for that. I make $40,000-$50,000 a year, if that. I don't make enough money for that. I don't have time for that. And you said, no, that's not true. Why don't you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. So I own a company, Mega Financial, with another fella, and the roots of our company is working with working class people. I would say
Reverend Wilson is back on.
% of our business is working with union tradespeople here in the Chicagoland and Midwest part of the country. So these people are working every day, putting their boots on, working whatever, 8-10 hours a day, and they didn't really understand what their benefits were. Now the benefit of a union obviously is the retirement part, the retirement piece of your savings is kind of done for you. You're working, you're getting your paycheck, and then the union and the trustees of that union, whichever union it may be, is setting a certain amount of money aside for you, so you can enjoy your retirement. The rest of the Americans out there, the people who don't have pensions, and only 4% of Americans have these pensions, so 96% of us have to do this on our own. And you're right. So our focus is working class people, and I think financial literacy, I think saving for retirement is a huge issue in America. I mean, the sooner you start saving for retirement, the better your retirement's going to be. The best day is to save for your retirement was yesterday, and the next best day, if you're not doing it, is tomorrow. I mean, you need to start doing something now, and it's really hard, especially nowadays with inflation. All of a sudden, you were living paycheck to paycheck. I think it's 4 out of 5 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, so they're not doing anything for retirement. And all of a sudden, everything costs more money. What's the first thing that you're going to cut? You're going to kick the can down the road and limit your savings.
So, because that, most Americans cannot afford to go to the emergency room. So when you think of retirement, even though that is very, very important, Ron, and we're talking with Ron Whittingham of Megan Financial, we're going to have the financial literacy seminar on Tuesday, the 18th. It will be from 3 to 5. Joan Esposito will be broadcasting live from the Regenstein Center at the University of Chicago and on 60th Street. You don't want to miss this. And of course, Reverend Jeanette Wilson has joined us from Rainbow Push. And she is the head of the Push Excel program, Mr. Whittingham. And what she's doing, she said, first thing we're going to do is require that these students who are on their way to college attend this seminar. Do you think that's a good idea, Ron? And then I want you to respond to that, Reverend Wilson.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Again, if you start saving money earlier, you take a look at compound interest. I mean, the sooner you start, the better you're going to be down the road. And Santita, I think there's certain states, there's a push now to get younger people to learn about financial literacy. I mean, when I was in school, there was, home economics. There was a lot of different classes that I had access to, that I had a little bit of a foundation on some of the stuff during, high school and college and things like that. That there's certain states out there now that I believe it's 8 of the 50 are requiring some sort of financial literacy certificate before you graduate, which I think is a great thing to do.
Oh, wow. Reverend Wilson, you are requiring that our young people, we take on this college tour every year, that they attend this financial literacy seminar. Why?
Well, because college is expensive in and of itself, and students are bombarded with credit card companies giving them credit cards first time in life. They think credit cards are actual cash, so they don't realize that they're creating debt for themselves and oftentimes for the parents. So we want them to understand not only budgeting, but also to learn how to make financial investments, how to build a future for themselves where they're not living paycheck to paycheck. And many of our young people are first-generation college students, and so no one in the family has an understanding of the cost of college and the cost of all of the various aspects of living. I'll never forget when my daughter did an internship in Florida. She had to stay in an apartment that she shared with someone. And as a result, she said she went to the refrigerator and she said it's empty. I said, yeah, you have to buy food. And she said, well, I have to pay my own transportation to get to work. But she's working for TSA. I said, yeah, that's part of the cost of living. We've never given that thought at all, because you open the refrigerator at home, poor or not, you have food, you have resources that they haven't thought about. And so this budgeting and living as an adult, which some of this generation calls adulting, they now realize it's a big deal.
Well, now Shapiro Wells just sent a message. She said, is it free for students to attend this seminar? And it is.
Yes, it's free for them to come. Yes.
And indeed,
definitely free.
Well, Ron Whittingham, you're not charging people for the advice that you give.
Yeah, no, when we sit with somebody, obviously we'll create a plan, because all of this, obviously we're retirement planners, so that's the piece of it. Obviously we get compensated on that end when somebody decides to invest with us. Mm-hmm. But no, we sit with somebody and create that plan at zero cost, and there's no requirement that people have to use us for the investing piece either.
But why is your focus on people, well, working class people, middle class people? I mean, why did you decide to go there?
Well, I mean, it's again, we got kind of just pushed into that niche with the union piece. So that's all we've really done. I mean, most financial advisors, if you go to financial advisory school, the goal is to have the least amount of clients with the most amount of money, so you can spend time golfing and doing things like that. I mean, our firm manages about $1.3 billion, which is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But it's made up of about 7,000 households. I mean, it's a bad day when they all try to call at once, let me tell you. But it's very rewarding. I mean, honestly, Santita, our clients are, they need the help. They need the education. They don't understand a lot of the stuff. And, stock markets, finance, money, I mean, it can be very intimidating. I mean, you look at all this stuff and it's like, I'm not going to put my money in there. Why would I do that? It's up and down. I don't understand it, but we're all forced into it. Why we do it is we just find it very rewarding. Our clients say thank you. I mean, honestly, a lot of them have become friends. And it's just a very rewarding experience. Again, we're very untraditional when it comes to the financial advisory piece. We're just here to help people and do the right thing.
Well, how does this work? Do people, they meet you, they set up an appointment, they come to you, do you come to them? I mean, how does this work?
Yeah, so, I mean, again, typically how we do it, we'll do a seminar. We'll do it at a Union Hall, we'll do it at Rainbow Push, we'll do it wherever they want. We'll have a comment sheet that everybody gets as part of their packet, and if they want us to contact them, we'll contact them. So one of our advisors will go to their home, sit at your kitchen table. That family will have, that advisor will be their person. That person will know their goals, they'll know their story, and that advisor will be with that family for their whole lives. And that's how we do it.
Wow. What do you think, everybody? I mean, this sounds like a really good deal, Reverend Wilson. It's very important, and it's so necessary because, most of us get the shakes not when we get the paycheck, not when we spend the money, but when we talk about what to do with the money, it makes most of us very anxious, Reverend Wilson. Well, let me pivot back to you. Most of us have real high anxiety. Thank you. Just when it comes to dealing with our money. And you're saying that we should not be anxious about dealing with our money. Do you think that the more we know, the less anxious we are, Ron?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if you understand something, then you're going to feel a lot better about it. And, I do the same thing. If I don't understand something, I know I'm going to have to deal with it. It sits on a pile on my desk because I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And again, time is the most important thing when you talk about investing. I mean, you need to start this early. And again, it's really hard to do when you get that paycheck like you talked about. 4 out of 5 Americans living paycheck to paycheck. The last thing they want to do is they're gonna kick the can down the road, and that's going to be retirement. But I'm getting older. Santita, you and I talked about that at the break. We're all getting older. It's harder to do this stuff when you get older. I mean, it takes, it just, you can't work forever, and you have to rely on that retirement. And if you haven't done your own work, you're going to have a real problem when you're older.
Well, is it ever too late to begin? I mean, it's like 50, 60, too late, 40.
Well, I mean, again, if you're not doing it, you got to start. You got to start tomorrow. But the later you start, the harder it's going to be. I mean, again, when we sit with somebody, it's all about goals. Okay, I'll sit with a family, and they'll tell me, okay, Ron, I want to retire when I'm 65 because that's when Medicare kicks in. Here's my Social Security benefit. This is when I'm going to take that. And this is how much extra money I want to live on. This is how much I need to live on for the rest of my life. And then it's a math problem. Okay, this is how much you have to start saving. And it's a lot less money when you're younger because you have more time to build that up. It has more time to compound. So the later you start, the larger chunk of your paycheck you're going to have to save, and it may not be doable, especially, again, with inflation and how much stuff costs now.
Oh, my goodness. Dwight McKee, this does make good sense because we are trying to make the shift. Ron Whittingham, and Dwight McKee is one of the founding members of our board, making the shift from civil rights to silver rights. And we need to become financially literate. I don't think we pay enough attention to that, Dwight McKee.
No, and it's a small window for us to really do it when you think about it, Santita, because up until our 40s, we have debt. We have, the student debt, school debt, the mortgage debt, just day-to-day bills. And then from generally 60 and up, then we inherit our grandchildren's debt and our responsibility for them. We want to take them to Disneyland. We want to take them to the zoo. We want to plan for them to go to college. And so the time we have to really accumulate money or accumulate wealth is really about 20 years. And so you need a real plan because you spend the first part of your life trying to come out of debt. And then the next part of your debt, of your life, investing in your posterity, so that they have the benefits of your work and your labor, and create a future for them. And so it's very, very important to have a plan. I always say that nothing beats a plan, but a better plan.
Attorney Aaron Connolly, you are from a military family. And, and Ron Whittingham, one of the abject failings in our system is when you drive to a base and you see these payday loan centers on the edges of more and more American bases because the enlistees don't make enough money. They don't. What about getting them involved with Make It Financial and, with companies like this that will help you to work your way through this? Even though, they have good plans, but what did Dwight just say? If you get a better plan, that's better for you. Attorney Connolly.
Yes, and we see a lot of these military families utilizing things like food stamps at higher levels than ever before. And the education that you're talking about is absolutely crucial, especially for military families where you're coming out of a very structured environment where you know what your day looks like, when you know what your life is going to be. When you're out of that environment, it's even more chaotic, and that's when we see some of these issues coming into play for military families. So having that type of education, and these are most of the time working class folks, as we see, the affirmative action piece, for example, does not include military institutions. They're still allowed to use affirmative action. So, and when we see the makeup of our military, they come from working class families, immigrant families, people of color, and they're disproportionately impacted by the lack of structure when they leave the military. So that needs to be a big part of our education system as well. And as someone who is sending one of my stepdaughters off to an Ivy League next fall, she's already getting these things in the mail from these credit card companies, right? These big promises of that this will change your life, that you'll have flexibility and freedom. So we're excited to make sure that she and some of her friends understand these type of things you're talking about, and I'm hoping they'll be able to attend this literacy summit as well, because again, she's from a working class family. This is not the typical person who is admitted to an Ivy League, and to keep up with that kind of system, a lot of students get trapped early and don't have the tools, get overwhelmed, and for many of us, it's an embarrassing thing to talk about, right? Nobody wants to talk about money. That's a taboo subject, even within certain families, right? You don't want to bring it up. So this open conversation where you can learn something in a safe and supportive environment is absolutely.
I mean, and with people who
next generation to understand.
Well, and Rod Whittingham, I will close with you. I mean, thankfully, when I come to you, I won't feel judged, if you will, Aaron and Dwight and Daryl. I don't have to be a wealthy person in order to be worthy of an audience with you. You're telling me something else. You're saying, no. Most Americans, we're all in the same boat, Ron Whittingham. And so, come on, we can, if we paddle this thing together, we can cross the ocean. So, just, the point of this financial literacy seminar, and we're very excited. You got to get your daughter there and her friends, Aaron, because they need to know, because in college, that's when you can really get into trouble. And in your post-high school life, you can really, really get into financial difficulty. Just because, $1,000 sounds like a lot of money to you, and you get spotted that kind of credit. And it's like, no, this is actually the new peonage, the new slavery. What are we going to get from this financial literacy seminar before you go, Ron Whittingham?
Yeah, I mean, I just think you're going to get educated. You're going to learn the 4 steps of financial literacy. I mean, if you Google financial literacy, there's the 4 steps, the 5 steps, the 7 steps, and the 8 steps. I mean, I think the more steps, the more harder it is to understand. But the first thing you have to do is understand what you have coming in and what you need to have going out. You know, you have to live somewhere. Somebody said you have to go to work. How are you going to get there? You know, that you have to figure that out. You're going to have to feed the family. And then you're also going to have to save for retirement. So you're going to have to do those things. And you know, I think we'll educate everybody, and that's what we'll do. I mean, Dwight, you mentioned something about a plan. You know, another good thing about a plan is if you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to start that plan.
Now you can avoid all this if you die early. I mean, you can avoid all this if you just die early.
Not a good goal. Not a good goal.
You know what? He doesn't make good sense. Pardon me. I'm apologizing for him on his behalf, Ron Whittingham. It's Megan Financial, everybody. Joe and Esposito will be broadcasting live from the Rainbow Push International Conference on Tuesday, the 18th, from 2 to 5. And from 3 to 5, we're going to have the seminar. We're going to have some munchies there. It's going to be great. So bring your kids. You need to come. It is never too late to do the right thing. So get on out there, everybody. Get on out there. Get on out there and come on and join us. Can't wait to see you at Rainbow Push today at 9:30 50th Street. Tomorrow, starting at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a great time. I'm even going to sing there. Hello, because we are having a reunion. We're going to remember a lot of people who've made their mark, who passed on, but they passed the baton to us from heaven to keep the work going. Civil rights, civil rights, voting rights. You have the right to the tree of life. I'm Santita Jackson. Can't wait to be with you at Rainbow Push this weekend. I love everybody. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Ron Whittingham of Megan Financial. Let's get literate, everybody. Let's get busy. Love you, everybody. God bless. Thank you, Ron Whittingham. You are a jewel. Did he leave?
He had to get off, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, and thank all of you. Is there anything that you all would like to say before I let you go?
I appreciate the time to speak.
Oh, well, look, hey, you're very, very welcome. You know, it's a game of inches in radio, so we're always having to push, but I wanted you to give that update, and we have to keep on going, because also, remember, you might not know, I'm in more than one market. So, you know, the floods, they're important to us here and in Vermont, but the heat is an issue for people in much of the rest of the country. I mean, because
I know.
119 degrees. Oh, but you know, we had that here in 1995, and it killed a whole lot of people. You remember the heat wave, everybody? You remember that, Dwight and Aaron? Were you here then, Aaron? I don't know.
I was in Detroit at that point, but yes, I remember reading about it and studied it in my class with the esteemed professor Dr. Christina Rivers from DePaul University. So we covered that for sure.
Well, it was a mess because we lost a lot of our push people. And they died like a week or two after it let up, because you know it had such a negative impact upon their bodies. You know, that kind of heat that, you know, because I promise you, we all felt that that's what took out Esther Thompson and so many others, because we just looked up and there was just a wave of deaths, you know, and you know, with this standing water, with this, with the lead pipes and with sewage coming up through your basement, well, how do you clean that? It's like, ugh. And now you're calling up 3,000 reservists. I saw that out the corner of my eye. I just said, Dwight, Aaron, I said, y'all got to be kidding me. Are you serious right now? What?
Well, and we know that's a slippery slope. Once they go, the door's kind of open, and we don't have as much control over what happens next from a congressional authorization perspective, based on, you know, the AUMF that continues to be law in this country. And it makes me very nervous for my family, for families like ours, for the folks who's going to carry this burden while our country needs help, as everyone stated. It's troubling.
Well, the thing is, you don't even know why you're there. I mean, really. And this is, I'm telling you, that's why I've been trying to talk about Ukraine, because I knew this is where we were heading. And this ain't good. It's not. It's not good. Not good. It is not good. And they did it very quietly. Very, very quietly. I mean, there's no big announcement about it. You're just telling people that they got to leave their families like right now. And that's the end of that. It's horrible. Horrible. So, we'll see. Oh boy, oh boy. So, oh boy. Oh, and Miss Wanda, I wish you were with us this weekend too. It's going to be great. Please give Mr. Corey our love. We love you. Oh, Larnell, you're so sweet.
And Santito, Santito, 50 years ago, half the NATO countries were fighting each other. Now they're allied, And so what is it all about, really? You get over there and you give your life, and then the politics change, and 10 years later they make up, and now they're partners, and you're dead. What is the point?
I know. I mean, and please don't tell me about democracy and fighting for my way of life. That's what you all don't care about that. They don't care about that. They know they don't. And see, I'm anytime the Azov Battalion, which is a Nazi group, I'm supporting them. Now, Aaron, I'm offended by that because both my grandfathers, black men, went and fought in the Second World War. They fought the Nazis. And the last in-person conversation I had with my grandfather Jackson, Charles Henry Jackson, he talked about going into New York when they came back from Europe. And when they got to Washington, my grandfather had to move into another car of the train and he had to sit in the black car while the Nazi POW sat in the nice car. And you mean now I'm supporting these jokers?
No.
Oh no. When you got to Washington, because that's the Mason-Dixon line really is really before Washington. It starts in Maryland. But formally, it starts in Washington. And so what they had to do when they got to Washington, the black soldiers, the black veterans, had to move into the black car. And the Nazi POWs got their seats. They were already in the nice white cars. But they had to be moved. Yeah. So, I mean, what is all this? Why did you make the point? It's like they were fighting each other 20, 30 years ago. East and West Germany, Berlin had an east and west side. There was a wall. That's not 40 years ago. Barely 30.
I was there.
Okay.
I went to Germany.
Okay.
When it was split down the middle, I went through Checkpoint Charlie. And now, 30 years ago, 30 years later, 25 years later, now they're on the same side. And so in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you may find Russia and the NATO countries back on the same side. And you've given your life for what? The politics change, the relationships change, the alliances change.
Every day. But what does not change is the fact that they still control the coin in the world. That doesn't change. It's just how it's proportionalized. That's what they're fighting over now. It's like, stop playing with me. Look, the reasons that we're here. Come on, Dwight. That's Earth, Wind, and Fire. The earth. Come on, Daryl. You remember that song? The reasons that we're here. Yeah. Oh man, you start thinking about that, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're gonna have 3,000 reservists. You got to call them, and they got to leave their families now. Because y'all were mad with Putin. Russia and the United States fought together during the Second World War. Think what? Stop.
It's
it's worth pointing out that even during that time there was tension, and of course the United States didn't want to work with Russia at the time. But given how they were seen as a very valuable ally, they had to work with Russia. It's not like they wanted to; they had to, for tactical reasons. Because I know, like if Germany took over Russia, they would have had a significant supply of oil that would have helped them out in the war effort, and that would have put the U.S., that would have put Britain, that would have put a lot of its major allies already in a more difficult position. And considering the fighting force of Russia, go ahead.
Do you know what that sounds
so
like?
So they made peace. The victory was Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt. They made peace. They had fellowship together. They smoked cigars together.
Right, but just remember,
it just sounds like marriage to me. Okay, there's tension in every marriage. Okay, look, I think my parents have been married 61 years, and they do not agree on every big thing. They agree on the basic things, and it's kept them in the game. So folks falling in and out, that means nothing to me. What bothers me is that people are losing their lives while other people are playing a game, and they are a discussion away from ending all of this, from not having a conflict. America stood in the way for Raytheon, Boeing, and all of these other military companies. They stood in the way of peace talks. Turkey's tried to have peace talks. All the African countries have put forth a peace plan. Everybody's putting forth a peace plan but us. We're telling them, no, you need to keep fighting. For what? These 3,000 reservists, Gerardo, can be in Cicero and throughout Chicago, rebuilding the pipes, rebuilding our infrastructure in the United States. That's what we need.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong that we need the assistance. You're not wrong about that. I mean,
I'm more than not wrong. I am right. And I'm not saying that with arrogance. I'm saying enough. We don't have the luxury of using people this way, misusing them this way. You don't do that. You just don't do that. Enough.
It's interesting to kind of think about these sorts of things because, like, I know, like, your interpretation of what's right and wrong is completely different from someone else's interpretation of it. And obviously, like, that kind of stems from, like, who has the authority and power in order to, make these sorts of decisions, because, like, at the end of the day, those people making those decisions, like, have, like, there's a little bit more influence from a decision like that coming from them versus from us at times, and which is why it's it's very key to think about, like, who do we put in power, who do we put in office. Like, it's very good to be very consistent with making sure that folks are reminded that we have influence ourselves too. We have influence to see who we put in office and who we don't. So, like, it's very crucial to kind of hold officials accountable and to make sure that, that if they're paying a price that, hopefully it benefits us, or if it doesn't, then, good luck trying to benefit your pocket.
We need to start marching on some of these, on these corporations, because they're the ones who are controlling everything. And we need to stop playing with that. We need to, because they're the ones they have the goals, they're making the rules. The only opposing force that you have against that is when Americans get out in the streets and protest, which is why every leader of the people, you shoot them down, you tell them about their faults. You find out Ben Franklin's biggest foe was his son, who he had out of wedlock before he got married. He was a man who had his issues. Thomas Jefferson had his issues. So what? That didn't take away from their greatness. Dr. King, and whatever you read about Reverend when he goes, doesn't take away from your greatness. You're just a human being. Next. Bring it on. God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. He didn't send Jesus here as a ghost, as some mystical figure. He sent Jesus here as a human being, so we could understand him and he could understand us. Enough. Enough of all this war. 62% of our budget goes to war and to war activities. That is ridiculous. While you're sitting up here having to attend a meeting every other day and figure out, well, you have mud in your basement. You have mold in your walls. At home and in the spaces where you got to work. You ought to be insulted by that when someone tells you that we don't have enough resources to clean that up and to get it right.
I mean, obviously the question stems now then would be, how do we get the resources? How do we prioritize?
You demand that they reallocate this money in Washington. That's what you do. You don't need to spend 6 out of 10 of our dollars don't need to go to war. It is a complete conflict of interest for the head of the Department of Defense to come off the board of Raytheon and into that office. You ought to be sick of it. You ought to be sick of being treated this way. I don't care if he's black or not. You need to get over that too. I want someone there who looks like me. Oh, please get over that. You better get someone who feels like you. And I'm sure he is a great man. I mean, I'm sure he's a very nice man. He's got a great position. That's wonderful. But you ought to be tired of this. We have the monies. We have everything we need. God is too wise to make a mistake and too kind to be cruel. Everything we need in this world is here. We're the poor stewards. We're the people who abuse resources. We're the people who do not feel that we're somebody enough to demand that the money that we give this government come back to us. Shame on us. And then you hear one little thing about someone who's fighting for you. And, I don't like him. I don't like her. I don't trust them. And you trust these other jokers who are doing business in Ukraine. And you don't want to ask about it because they're Democrats. Well, how cowardly. I want to know if you're doing business in Ukraine. Is there a tie between us us being over there in Ukraine and you doing business in Ukraine? Is that what's going on here? But we don't even ask the question. Because I've got to vote blue no matter who. You better get over that. You ought to be sick of that. While your father, your mother, your son, your mama, your sister, your niece, your godchild is going over there to fight for what? And I can't even get you to help me to bring mud and sludge out of my basement. Are you joking? Oh, we're going to pay for this, Gerardo. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
And for who? I mean, we got African Americans here fighting for people who threw the Africans out their country when they were at peril.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
And nobody raises that issue.
Wouldn't let them on the train. And I told one of my friends.
And nobody raises that issue.
I said, not anymore. I said, no, these people were treated horribly. Which means when I go over there, you ain't gonna let me on the train. Oh no, sugar. Miss me on that. Whoa, no. You ain't gonna treat black people like that. And then I've got to sit up under some Nazis who run your military. And my grandfather fought them, both of them risking their own lives. And now they're our friends. You better not talk to me about that. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? No. And I understand everybody's got an opinion, but some things there is right and wrong. The world ain't full of gray, Gerardo. There's some things that are right and there's some things that are wrong. Some things are sane, some things are crazy.
As a student of history, I could not confirm that any more than you've already stated. I mean, it kind of falls back to the cycle of things, when it comes to different decisions, everything, like just the way and how people kind of interact with each other and the decisions that they have the opportunity to exercise. This is something like if there's anything I could probably put out there for folks to keep in mind. I try to express this to students that I work with from time to time, and then it's this. You think about the impact of history, the impact humans have in this world. You think about everything that has been brought up all the way that led us to where we are today. The question I like to throw at people, including everyone that's listening, and for those that are parents, I encourage you strongly to have these sorts of conversations with your kids. I'd say this: how do you want to impact life? How much of a difference do you want to have in this world? What are you willing to do to make a difference in someone's day? And the reason why I bring this up is because everyone in some capacity, whether they're working at a dollar store, whether they're working as a doctor, whether they're working as a politician, whether they're working as a reverend or a teacher, or whoever the case may be, the things that we do in this world make an impact on somebody. Now, depending on how you value that impact, I guess it's up for interpretation, but it's also interprets the value you put on yourself. It's very important to think about the type of person you want to be when you're done with your schooling, when you're done and getting ready to enter the adult world, so to speak, of life. I ask people to try to just think about, what type of person do you want to be? How do you want to help somebody? That's the question. How do you want to help? Because the way you help somebody can make a very big difference in someone's day. You might make a difference in one person's day. You might make a difference in 20 people's days. You might make a difference for 1 million people. And that's the type of question people need to really think about. Because one way or another, in the cycle of life, we all have an influence on all of us, on each other. And that you need to ask yourself, am I doing enough to get through the day? Am I doing enough to make a difference in this world? And if you're not, if you feel like you're genuinely not, figure out a way you can put yourself in that place,
But you also need to ask yourself if you're being played. You go to the Saudi Arabia. You go to the Mideast war and fight because the Saudis bombed the World Trade Center. And then, you lose both of your legs. You come back trying to find a job or your family or a house, or treatment. And then 20 years later, the Saudis own the PGA. And they're in partnership. So you want to know, why did I go lose my legs in behalf of somebody else now who are together playing golf on 2 legs?
Wait a minute.
Did I get played?
Wait a minute, Dwight. Or be mad like these PGA players who didn't sign up for this league. Wait, they are so warm about that. No, we're still on Facebook Live.
Because they were patriotic.
Yeah.
Because they were patriotic.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Tiger turned down $1 billion because he was a patriot.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut the deal and left him out the deal. You have to ask the question, am I being played in this?
Yeah.
Are they playing golf or are they playing me?
You're playing you. You the ball. Getting whacked around. Please get out of here, man. No. And then I'm not the dissent. Teddy Roosevelt said the most patriotic thing you can do is to be a dissenter. You got to ask questions. And you need to be protected to ask for questions. Why can't I ask you, if you are doing Ukraine, is there a tie between you, Ukraine, and us doing this war? Oh, you sound like a Trumper. Get out of it. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. These people are making money off of this war and all these other wars. In the meantime, your children do not have computers for school. I can always tell when I'm going into a poor area. You want to know why? Because I have a smartphone. I was with my brother, Congressman Jackson, the other day, and we were riding through one of these neighborhoods, and we both looked at each other and said, because our phones went crazy. They weren't working because you don't have internet access in poor neighborhoods. Not full. There's no full coverage. We have the power to do all of this, Gerardo, but we don't do it. We've traded the monarchs for oligarchs, and you know what? We feel that we should still be subjugated to them. And until we change our minds, nothing's going to change. Fortunately, I think more and more people are waking up.
That's good.
I shouldn't beg you for electricity.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't beg you for clean water. I shouldn't beg you for my vote. No. You're talking to the wrong one. I shouldn't apologize for touching King Charles. What? Well, make sure you curtsy. No, sweetie, I'm an American. I don't do that. And that doesn't mean I don't disrespect you, but I bow before Father, Mother, God. That's it.
Mm.
No.
I mean, hey, they say respect is earned, not asked.
You know, I'll give it to you, but don't play with me. Don't play with me. Stop playing with me and stop getting played. How about that? Stop getting played. You need to ask, why are we going to Ukraine now? And does that make it harder for me to get sponsors? Yes, it does. It does. But here we are. It shouldn't be the case because guess what? Most of y'all don't support and do not trust corporate media anyway. Most Americans think that they are lying, and they are. On behalf of the corporatocracy, who they protect. MSNBC put Phil Donahue, who had their number one show as they were an emerging network, they put him off the air because he became an anti-war voice. And what does GE, which owns MSNBC, do? They're one of the top military contractors in the world. You need to understand the game, y'all. Stop getting played. Stop getting played. Stop when they tell you that, all Robert Kennedy is an anti-vaxxer. Have you listened to anything that he has said? He's not an anti-vaxxer. He is anti-unsafe vaccines and medicines. He's an environmentalist. And I can't ask you about that? I mean, because under Reagan, it was already determined that I cannot sue people who make these kind of medicines. I can sue anybody but them. And there's something wrong with me. And then you create the social environment where I'm a pariah. We've had a whole class of people. Part of the reason we can't fly anybody because people were fired because they disobeyed the mandate. You don't have enough people working in the airline industry. You don't have enough traffic controllers. You don't have enough pilots. They said, I'd rather fight than switch. I'm out. And every article I read about the Secretary of Transportation is telling me he's a Mensa candidate. He's a genius. Genius, and you need to figure out hiring these people back so the system can work. Never seen anything like this in my life. And we're steady not thinking. You don't trust the media, but you listen to everything that they say. And you parrot what they say. That's crazy. Just crazy. Just stop it. And if you disagree with people, stop trying to cancel them. That too is crazy. Disagree without being disagreeable. Just if you don't like Marianne Williamson, if you don't like Cornel West, if you don't like Robert Kennedy, then just go on. But if you would do yourself a favor and listen to Cornel West, I promise you before God, he's gonna make sense to you. Marianne Williamson's gonna make some sense to you, and so is Robert Kennedy. They're gonna make some sense. And guess what? They're not invested in fighting in Ukraine. Oops, did I say something? Okay. All right. You better wake up before you kiss your mama, daddy, brother, sister goodbye over there. Go on, because they're on their way now. And that is not at the headline of the news, and shame on them for that. I saw that. I said, are you serious? And so they're just going to sneak this in. So I have to read international newspapers to get that information. Oh, wait a minute. As a black reservist, I got to fight alongside someone from the Azov Battalion. They're Nazis. I've got to fight under the leadership of Nazis? I've got an insult level. I hope you do too. I thought they were the bad guys. Oh, okay.
Sometimes you got two enemies with different fronts.
Oh, please. So. Yeah, that's right. And my enemy is a lie. Anything that's ungodly to me is an enemy. Just stop it. Stop playing.
Like I said before, Ms. Jackson, a lot of it kind of comes from if we really want to improve the way how things are, we have to make sure that we're looking at ourselves and we're checking on ourselves and making sure that we're able to work together, become united, and push to do better. Because if we don't push to do better, if our next generations, if our children aren't trying to take the steps to try to make that initiative to want to do better, then we're no better than those that have played us, or we're no better than those that make the wrong decisions. We have to be able to make those steps now and just try and push and do better. Not just for our children's sakes, but for the sake of our future.
Absolutely. But and if we have to also look at the fact that a lot of our children, they feel dispirited because they feel like they've been lied to, and they have been. You've been lied to. It's a lie that we don't have the resources to make sure that everyone is safe in their homes in the United States. Homelessness is a lie. You've got more vacant places to live than you have homeless people in the United States. You have greedy people who don't want people to live next door to them, or who don't want to invest in affordable or just some housing for people. Not just some housing, nice housing for people. That's something that's a human right. California is too expensive. You have people who make six-figure salaries who are living in their cars, even as they work in Silicon Valley, because they cannot afford it. You got greedy people. God will satisfy your every need, not your every greed. Just shame on you. Shame on you. That's why people leave in New York. That's why people leave in California. Ain't nobody doing that. Ridiculous.
If I was making $60,000 a year, I'd be sitting very nicely, comfortably in my home. I'd be sitting very comfortably right now. But it's wild, honestly. It's like the value and the fact that people would rather make money than try to help others. Just for the sake of just spreading kindness and helping your fellow man.
Oh, look,
it's wild.
And you have to call them out on it. You have to call them out and just say enough.
100%, yeah.
And call them out. I mean, Jeff Bezos is on his way to being a trillionaire. That's $1 million. $1 billion is $1,000 million. A trillion is 1 million. I mean, come on. What's that about? Look, I love you all. I'm going to get on out of here. But it's been great being with you today. And it's been great being with everyone. Yvonne, I got to find you so we can get together with you. And there's that. There is that. Thank you, Mildred. Dwight, yes? Were you about to say something? Okay, well then that's that. Okay. It's been wonderful being with all of you today. I love you. I love you, Morning Stars. I love you, panel. I love you. I'm gonna get on out of here so we can get on with the day. I love you. God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and yada yada. All right. Love you. God bless. Thank you so much.